California Governor Gavin Newsom is now calling his city's homeless encampments unacceptable, which is odd since he's the guy who, made them acceptable, turning sidewalks into red carpet events for drug addicts, thieves, and unemployed CNN anchors. On Monday, he urged cities to ban the camps from sidewalks, parks, and other public areas. So after years of denying the problem, he's now pretending to fix it, which is like putting on a condom as you're leaving a whorehouse.
Gavin Newsom. The name conjures images of California cool, a political Kennedy-esque figure gliding towards national prominence. He moves with an air of inevitability, his words polished, his image meticulously crafted. But peel back the layers of slick presentation and progressive declarations, and what lies beneath? Is the Golden State's governor truly a visionary leader, building a brighter tomorrow? Or is California itself screaming a warning we can't afford to ignore? A story far more complex and unsettling than the one being sold?
So Newsom is fed up with tent cities, the crime, the urban decay? No, he's not mad about that stuff. He's mad you noticed. It's like a criminal telling a jury he's sorry he robbed 25 banks when he's just sorry he got caught on the 26th. Because this isn't some spontaneous crisis. It's a man-made disaster like Chernobyl or Fox and Friends. And
the aura of the Anointed One has surrounded Gavin Newsom for years. His ascent through California's political landscape seemed almost preordained. From the bustling, often chaotic world of San Francisco politics, leveraging powerful connections and an undeniable charisma, he climbed steadily to the lieutenant governorship, and then the ultimate prize, the governor's mansion. His campaign promises painted a dazzling picture of a Californian utopia, a progressive beacon that would illuminate the path for the entire nation. Yet, almost from the moment he took office, troubling signs began to emerge. A subtle but growing chasm appeared, separating the polished rhetoric from the gritty, often harsh reality faced by millions of Californians. The initial sheen, so bright and promising, revealed itself to be thinner, more fragile than anyone could have imagined. But the meticulously constructed facade would soon collide with a crisis festering in plain sight, one that would become a defining and devastating symbol of his tenure.
Took common sense as his high ground.
Right.
There's no place outside of it.
That's right.
And so they're stuck in this horrible, horrible place, much like you, Jamie, and your life. As California falls apart, it must remind you somewhat of your own personal life.
Yeah. Sometimes I look at footage of California and I go, oh, look how much better it is than my life.
The unraveling sidewalks tell a grim tale of two Californias. The homelessness catastrophe, a humanitarian crisis of staggering proportions, has exploded under Newsom's watch. For years, the issue was discussed with carefully chosen words of compassion and promises of innovative solutions. Billions of dollars were poured into programs, task forces assembled, and declarations made. Yet, the tent cities didn't shrink. They spread, becoming permanent grim fixtures in neighborhoods rich and poor. Public parks, once vibrant community spaces, transformed into scenes of profound human despair. Then, a shift. Suddenly, these encampments were deemed unacceptable, and Newsom began urging cities to dismantle them, a vow made years into the deepening crisis. Conveniently, as his national profile began to rise, was this a genuine awakening to the suffering, or a calculated political pivot as the images of urban decay became too damaging to his ambitions? The stark contrast remains. Gleaming tech campuses, symbols of California's innovation, often stand just blocks away from sprawling encampments, a daily brutal reminder of a paradise lost, or perhaps a paradise that never truly existed for all. And as the humanitarian crisis ballooned, the state's once legendary financial strength began to show alarming cracks.
So why do I keep bringing up Gavin? Well, other than my respect for his work in American Psycho, he's starting to distance himself from his party's worst ideas. Newsom, a guy who hates fossil fuels but could still bring down the price of gas by wringing out his hair, once proclaimed that his state would be a sanctuary to all who seek it. Then people actually came.
California's dizzying economic tightrope act has left many breathless, and not from admiration. The state boasts of being home to Hollywood's dream factory and Silicon Valley's tech empires, an economy so vast it rivals entire nations. This is the illusion of boundless prosperity Newsom often projects. Yet, beneath this shimmering surface, a silent but significant exodus has been underway. Iconic companies, pillars of the California business landscape like Tesla, Oracle, and Hewlett-Packard, have packed their bags, seeking refuge in states with more favorable tax climates and fewer crushing regulations. They were not alone. A steady stream of residents, from high-earning professionals to middle-class families, began fleeing, driven out by an unbearable cost of living and the feeling that the California dream was simply out of reach. Then came the fiscal whiplash. A jaw-dropping budget surplus, trumpeted as evidence of wise stewardship, vanished almost as quickly as it appeared, replaced by a terrifying multi-billion-dollar deficit. Whispers in Sacramento corridors turned into shouts from concerned citizens. Where did all the money go, and who exactly was minding the store? Newsom's fiscal management faced a harsh, unforgiving spotlight, revealing a troubling pattern of overpromising and under-delivering that severely shook public confidence in his economic leadership. This financial instability and exodus were compounded by a growing unease, a pervasive feeling that the very fabric of public safety was fraying, perhaps irreparably.
You conflate order with authoritarianism, you get chaos and destruction. So if restoring order is evil, then the Dems are now the party of disorder. Turns out the only system they had was wokeism, and it rotted any basic principles the party had to begin with. Which is why, like Gavin himself, they're left looking at 2028's hopes going up in flames. And this time, no one is going to help them put it out.
When lawlessness casts a long shadow, even the California sun can't dispel the gloom. A creeping sense of disorder began to permeate daily life. Brazen smash-and-grab robberies, executed in broad daylight, turned bustling shopping districts into scenes of chaos and fear, forcing retailers to lock up even basic goods or shutter their doors entirely. Rampant retail theft became almost commonplace, fueling a narrative of a justice system that critics claimed was enabling, not deterring criminal behavior. The fierce, often bitter debate over sweeping criminal justice reforms, particularly Proposition 47, which reclassified certain felonies as misdemeanors, intensified. Supporters argued for de-incarceration and addressing root causes, while opponents pointed to rising crime rates as undeniable proof of failed policies. Newsom found himself performing a delicate, almost impossible dance, caught between the progressive ideals he championed and a terrified public demanding action and accountability. Were his subsequent responses, often seen as reactive rather than proactive, genuine efforts to restore order, or mere political theater designed to quell discontent? The chilling narrative taking hold was undeniable. California, once the ultimate dream destination, was increasingly viewed as a place where an element of danger felt disturbingly present. But public policy wasn't the only arena where Newsom's judgment came under intense fire. A single indulgent evening would expose a level of disconnect that many found utterly unforgivable.
Problem is his track record, his performance as mayor, as lieutenant governor, and governor. And your analogies are great. I think mine are better. And just hold on. And here's why. He shows up at the fires and says, who the hell caused this? I'm going to crack down on the people responsible. He sees the homeless encampments blocking the sidewalks and said, you guys clean that up. He started it. He spent $3 billion to fix it. And his opening words in 2020 when he got the job is a disgrace. The richest state in the country and the richest nation of the world has a homeless problem. I will fix it. He spends $1 billion when it's not fixed. He blames the mayors, and he also forced the movie industry and Silicon Valley out of the best state in the country by high taxes. I've never seen someone such a bad performance, but yet I think he's the front runner to get the nomination for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. They got nobody else. Sherrod, welcome back.
Thank you.
The French Laundry incident served up a course of let them eat cake, California style, and the public found it indigestible. While ordinary Californians were enduring strict COVID-19 lockdown orders, businesses shuttered, schools closed, families unable to gather, even to mourn their dead. Governor Newsom was photographed dining maskless, shoulder to shoulder with lobbyists, at the French Laundry, one of the world's most exclusive and outrageously expensive restaurants. The explosion of public fury was instantaneous and immense. Accusations of blatant hypocrisy, of an elite ruling class living by an entirely different set of rules than those they imposed on the masses, echoed across the state and the nation. The damage to his credibility was severe and lasting. This wasn't an isolated blip on the radar of public perception. Consider the revelation that his own children were attending in-person private school, while millions of public school students were languishing in remote learning, a move that screamed of privilege and disconnect to struggling parents juggling work and their children's disrupted education. These moments weren't just unfortunate gaffes. They painted a consistent portrait of a leader seemingly insulated from, if not indifferent to, the hardships and sacrifices he demanded of others. Yet, even as these domestic fires burned brightly, Newsom's ambitious gaze seemed fixed on a grander national stage, leading many to question his true priorities and ultimate allegiances.
So last week, Newsom said he hopes the conservative Supreme Court will overturn the current law that bans his state from removing out-of-control homeless encampments. Imagine that. Well, what did you expect, Gavin? That the sanctuary seekers were going to show up in Winnebagos? Once again, another example of a high-profile lib using his big mouth to write a check his ass can't cash. Last year, after the Texas Governor Abbott ordered that parents of transitioning children should face criminal investigation, Newsom then tweeted this: "Trans kids and their families should be celebrated, not targeted by the state. They are heroes." And so to fearful families in Texas right now, California's door is always open to you.
The national gambit has seen Newsom transform into a self-appointed warrior for progressive causes, his voice frequently raised not in Sacramento addressing California's woes, but on the national airwaves. He's been aggressively taking on Republican governors, running provocative ads in states like Florida and Texas, and meticulously positioning himself as the Democratic Party's dynamic answer to conservative power. The constant hum of presidential speculation follows him everywhere, a buzz often fueled by his own carefully choreographed appearances and pronouncements on the national scene. Yet, the glaring irony is impossible to miss. He champions his vision for America while his own state grapples with an intractable homelessness crisis, persistent crime, an alarming exodus of businesses and residents, and a fragile fiscal situation. Is this bold leadership a genuine attempt to share a successful model with the rest of the country? Or is it a desperate deflection, an effort to draw attention away from a record at home that is increasingly difficult to defend? The uncomfortable question hangs heavy in the air. Is California under Gavin Newsom a blueprint for national success, or a dire unfolding warning of what happens when lofty progressive policies collide head-on with hard, unyielding reality? Beyond the very public political posturing and national ambitions, quieter, yet more troubling questions began to surface. hinting at a complex web of influence operating just beneath the surface, far from the glare of the campaign trail.
What do you think about Gavin Newsom? What's going on there?
I don't know. I don't know how they bump out Kamala out of VIP, put a white male in there and take her out. She's got too much of an ego to just step aside. She's going to go crazy if they try to do that.
Plus, she had a strong 2% support, so don't forget that.
Yeah, but she's waiting for that spot to just open for her, and then you put a white male in there.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to put. I mean, they did it to Bernie. They threw him under the bus two, presidential ones in a row. They just gave him a couple extra houses in Vermont. Go, yeah, you got some extra money. But I don't know how they could do it with her.
It'd be great if they threw her under the bus, because she really likes buses, remember?
The unseen strings of influence often tell a more revealing story than public pronouncements. Digging deeper into less publicized, yet deeply concerning matters unearths a pattern that raises serious questions. Consider Jennifer Siebel Newsom's nonprofit organization, the Representation Project. Reports surfaced indicating it had received millions of dollars in donations from corporations and entities that actively lobby the state government, creating at the very least an appearance of a potential quid pro quo, where access and favor could be intertwined with charitable giving to the first partner's cause. Then there was the peculiar Panera Bread scandal. Eyebrows shot up when it appeared that a significant Newsom donor, who owned a number of Panera Bread franchises, seemed to receive a curious exemption from a new state minimum wage law specifically targeting fast food chains. After intense scrutiny and public outcry, this carve-out was clarified and walked back, but the initial impression of favoritism lingered, damaging trust. These instances, often buried in the dense pages of local news reports or investigative journalism, paint a disturbing picture of potential conflicts of interest, where personal connections and political patronage might be subtly, or not so subtly, influencing policy decisions and the allocation of public funds. It's these shadowy areas, where the lines between public service and private benefit blur, that fuel cynicism and distrust, suggesting a system where access and influence might unfortunately matter more than fairness, transparency, and the public good. With such a turbulent record, what is the real story of Gavin Newsom, and what does it foretell for those who look to him for leadership?
Californians used to sell maps of celebrity homes, not landmines. Now, instead of sightseeing, tourists play hopscotch so their shoes don't get hepatitis. And when residents complain, they're called cruel. And now we're supposed to believe Gavin? Hell no. All the problems of the last decade were based on his and his party's lies.
The Newsom paradox is a study in contrasts. A leader blessed with undeniable charisma, a sophisticated political machine, and a powerful platform, yet presiding over a state increasingly defined by its profound struggles rather than its historic strengths. The California dream, that potent anodyne that once drew millions westward, now feels for many like a cruel mirage, always shimmering on the horizon, but forever out of reach. From the heartbreaking crisis unfolding daily on city streets to the silent, steady exodus of its disillusioned citizens and businesses, from precarious fiscal uncertainties that swing wildly between surplus and deficit, to the persistent ethical shadows that cloud his administration, Gavin Newsom's legacy is being written in real time, and the ink being used is far from flattering. The ultimate unsettling question remains, echoing from the Pacific shores to the halls of national power. Is Gavin Newsom a visionary leader guiding us towards a brighter, more equitable future? Or is he a high-gloss emblem of promises unkept, a charismatic purveyor of policies that sound good in theory but crumble upon impact with reality? Is he the future, or a stark, cautionary tale for a nation standing at a critical crossroads? The verdict is still out, but the evidence continues to mount, and California itself may hold the most telling clues.
Then came the national polling by overwhelming majorities. It turns out Americans don't favor minors transitioning. So last week, when a California law was proposed that judges in custody cases favor the parent who supports transitioning a child's new gender, Newsom killed that law quicker than a late-term abortion. Yeah, I know, huh? Now the left, being the left, was outraged, but they missed something, because now Newsom says he only vetoed it since it's already the law. Gavin ponders why Dems lost.
We lost. We lost the popular vote, and we lost the electoral vote. We got crushed. And we need to be humble about that, and we need to have some grace, and we need to understand why. Was it because of the incumbency penalty? Was it because of inflation? Was it because of interest rates? Was it because of immigration? Was it because we were too, quote unquote, woke? Was it because of issues with Israel? Was it all of the above? I think we are going through that forensic. We need to understand at the same time, we also have to push back against the whitewater.
Voters. He's the classic wolf in sheep's hair gel. Just watch him answer the tough questions.
Any other questions here?
Yes, Governor. California has a terrible homeless problem. Why do you think that is?
I appreciate that question. And I think it's a matter of perspective. Let's kind of flip the script on that, okay? Let's kind of put a new lens on that. I mean, you see a homeless man, I see an outdoorsman. We got a lot of natural habitat in this state, and I'm just so proud that so many people in California can take advantage of that. All right, next question.